Welcome back to The Rich Nonprofit. This is Straight Talk for mission-driven women. Today, I'm going to tackle a conversation that makes a lot of people in the nonprofit sector uncomfortable. And that is the debate about whether nonprofits should operate more like a business. And I've heard this argument from both sides. There are purists who say that bringing business practices into nonprofits corrupts the mission. And then there's the pragmatists who say that nonprofit leaders need to get serious about sustainability and efficiency. I am firmly in the latter camp, and I want to tell you why. Not because I think profit should replace purpose, no way, but because I think purpose deserves to be supported by practices that are going to work and be sustainable. The nonprofit sector has created a false choice between caring about people and running things well. This is what I have seen. So this is my opinion. Between having a mission and being strategic, people lean toward the mission, the heart-centered work, and I get it. But you can be passionate, be professional, and strategic at the same time. And the choice to not be strategic is basically killing these nonprofits and limiting impact. So when people say nonprofits shouldn't act like businesses, what they're usually defending is the heart of nonprofit work: the caring, the mission focus, the willingness to serve people who can't pay market rates for services. And I completely understand that. The heart is what makes nonprofit work meaningful. It's why people choose this sector or over more lucrative options. But when people say nonprofits should act more like businesses, they're not talking about abandoning that heart. They mean supporting it with practices that make nonprofits sustainable and effective. They are talking about strategic planning, financial management, performance measurement, professional development, competitive compensation, and operational efficiency. And my question is, why are these things seen as opposed to mission work instead of supportive of it? Don't we all want that, especially competitive compensation? I know I sure did when I was giving my all at a nonprofit. I look at two organizations that serve homeless families. Both have passionate, dedicated leaders. Both have similar funding levels. The first one operates on what I would call the quote unquote pure nonprofit model: low overhead, staff paid well below market rate, minimal investment in systems and technology, decisions usually made based on heart over data. Now, the second one operates on what I call the strategic nonprofit model: competitive staff salaries, investments in technology, training, clear performance metrics, decisions made based on both heart and evidence. The second one is going to move faster. They are going to serve more families every time, not because they are caring less about the mission, but because they've created the infrastructure to support their mission effectively and efficiently. They pay their staff well, so they attract and retain talented people who can serve families more effectively and want to be there. They invest in training, professional development, so their team has the skills to handle complex situations. And they use data and numbers to measure what's working and what isn't, so they can improve their programs continuously and quickly. You have to be able to pivot quickly to serve the needs of your community. Meanwhile, that first organization back there, they're constantly struggling. High turnover means that families work with different case managers every few months. Outdated systems means staff spend more time on paperwork than with clients. And low pay means they can't compete for experienced help. Which organization would you want to work for if you were passionate about serving homeless families? Which one would you fund if you were a funder and you wanted to see maximum impact? There's this weird idea to me in the nonprofit sector that struggling financially is somehow more virtuous than being financially stable. Organizations are praised for doing more with less, instead of being encouraged to secure the resources they need to do their work well. And that's one of the reasons, main reason actually, that I call this podcast The Rich Nonprofit, because I believe if you are rich in team members, your leader, the passion, and the finances, you're going to first stay in business. And secondly, you're going to create more impact. But what I'm seeing is that leaders are being celebrated for working these long weeks at these ridiculous wages, especially if you live here in California, instead of being supported to build sustainable nonprofits. I don't want to see more personal sacrifice from leaders. I want to see them thriving so that then their team thrives and the nonprofit thrives as well. Business practices like strategic planning, diversified revenue streams, and reserve funds aren't about greed. They are about sustainability. They are about building organizations that can serve their communities for decades and beyond, not until the founder burns out and says no more. I want to give you a personal example here. While I was working in the nonprofit sector, I was constantly frustrated by the financial instability. We would get a big grant, hire staff, launch programs, and then scramble to find funding to continue the work when the grant ended. Staff would get excited about initiatives, and you never knew if those initiatives were going to get cut in 6 months. Families would start receiving services, but we never knew if those services were going to continue or disappear. The whole organization operated in constant crisis mode. It's not sustainable. It's not fair to your team, and it's not fair to the people you serve. Now, if you compare that to a well-run business, they plan ahead, they diversify their revenue, they build reserves for unexpected challenges, and they invest in their people and their infrastructure because they understand that sustainability serves their community better than being in constant crisis. Financial stability and strategic planning serve your community better than constant scrambling and uncertainty. Another place where I think nonprofits need to be more businesslike is in professionalism and performance standards. I've seen nonprofits where poor performance is tolerated because people have good hearts or they really care about the mission. And I've seen it firsthand, actually, that water cooler gossip, and it just really got in the way of us doing our job. We were all on the same team, but it sure didn't feel like it some days. Caring about the mission should mean holding yourself and your teammates to high standards. If you're serving vulnerable populations, they deserve staff who are not only caring, but also competent. They deserve programs that are well-intentioned, of course, but most importantly, effective. And this means hiring based on qualifications, not just passion or somebody who knows somebody. It means providing professional development opportunities, having clear job descriptions and performance expectations. It means addressing problems when they arise instead of hoping that they'll just resolve themselves. That is no way to run a business. And these aren't cold corporate practices. They are professional practices that ensure your team can serve your community as effectively as possible. Effective businesses are constantly innovating. They test new approaches, measure results, and they scale what works. They are not afraid to try something different if it's going to serve their community better. There's so many nonprofits that are stuck doing things the way they've always been done, even when these approaches are no longer working. I've seen leadership often resist change because we've always done it this way. Change feels risky, but that's not serving community. That is serving your own comfort. I want to be clear. I am not saying nonprofits should prioritize profit over people. I'm not saying you should cut services to improve your bottom line. And I'm not saying you should treat community like customers or beneficiaries, like a revenue source. I don't want you to lose the heart and passion that makes your nonprofit work meaningful and impactful. But what I am saying is that heart and passion can be supported by professional practices that make your work more effective. Strategic planning supports your mission by helping you make better decisions about how to allocate resources. Performance measurement supports your mission by helping you identify what's working and what needs improvement. And I love professional development. And it supports your mission by helping your team serve more people effectively. And then again, competitive compensation. That supports your mission by helping you attract and retain talented people who advance your work. These aren't corporate practices that corrupt nonprofit work. They are professional practices that strengthen it. And I feel like I have to say that over and over because it's just perpetuated for too long. And the resistance to these business practices often come from leaders who are afraid that focusing on operations will somehow diminish the focus on the mission. And to me, that's backward thinking. Strong operations support strong mission work, but poor operations are going to undermine it. When your systems are broken, your staff spends more time fighting technology or each other than actually serving clients. When your financial management is chaotic, you spend more time in crisis mode than being strategic and moving forward. And when your performance standards are unclear, your team can be a hot mess. I've seen it, and doesn't know how to be effective. So I think the real challenge is that many nonprofit leaders didn't choose this work because they wanted to be business managers. I get it. They don't want to be looking at spreadsheets all day. They chose it because they wanted to serve people and advance their cause. But if you want to serve your community effectively or advance your cause and scale it, you do have to be a good manager. And you do have to look at those spreadsheets every once in a while. You don't have to love the administrative side of leadership, but you do need to learn to do it well because it supports everything and everyone else. And one of the biggest reasons nonprofits need to adopt business practices is talent competition. The best people in every field, they have options. The most passionate and talented people want to work for organizations that will let them be effective, create impact, and grow professionally. And that means organizations with good leadership, clear systems, resources, and high professional standards. And if you want to attract the kind of people who are going to advance your mission significantly, you have to be able to offer the kind of workplace that supports this. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to match Google's compensation packages, right? But it does mean that you can be competitive within your sector and provide a work environment where talented people feel supported and want to do their best work. Also, I want you to consider major donors and foundation program officers. They aren't impressed by nonprofits that struggle with basic operations. They don't want to fund a nonprofit that can't demonstrate impact or manage their money responsibly. They want to see strategic plans, performance data, financial controls, and professional management. They want to invest in organizations that can scale effective programs and sustain impact over time. The organizations that attract significant support are the ones that combine passionate mission work with professional operations. If you know that your organization needs to adopt more business like practices, here's how you can start. First, focus on the foundation: strong financial management, clear job descriptions, basic performance standards. Get your fundamentals right before moving to more complex practices. Second, invest in training. If your team doesn't have business skills, help them develop these skills. Send people to conferences, bring in consultants, provide professional development opportunities wherever you can. Third, measure what matters to your mission. Start tracking outcomes. Understand what's working and what isn't. Use this data to make decisions about program design and resource allocation. Fourth, and most importantly, because, this matters to me, plan strategically. Don't just react to opportunities and crisis. Think ahead about where you want to go and how you are going to get there. Fifth, pay competitively. If you want good people, you need to offer compensation that reflects their value. And you can start small, start with the key positions, and then work your way through your organization as more money comes in. Sixth, super important, build reserves. Stop operating paycheck to paycheck. I mean, this is good in business and life, right? Build financial stability that allows you to weather challenges and take advantage of opportunities when they pop up. Your goal isn't to become a business. Your goal is to integrate business practices with mission focus in a way that strengthens both. This requires intentional leadership. You have to be equally committed to operational excellence and mission advancement. You have to see them as mutually supportive, not competing. And I know that makes you probably think, oh my gosh, I'm already tired. But with the right support and strategy, you can absolutely do it. Now, if you're ready to build and maybe pivot your organization to combine both mission and strategic operations, that is the work that I do with clients in Momentum Strategy Retreats. I help you design the systems and the practices that support your mission instead of competing with it. And with my virtual retreats, these are 2 half days. So you don't have to spend the time traveling. You can do it from your office, your home, wherever you want. And we pick your big goals for the next 6 to 12 months. And we come up with an action plan that gets you ready to present to your board. So if you want to learn more, the link is in the show notes. I want you to remember that your mission deserves to be supported by practices that will work for you, for your team, for your community, and that are sustainable so that you can create more impact for years to come. So I will see you next time on The Rich Nonprofit.